नमस्कार, मैं हूं अमित शर्मा और आपके साथ मौजूद हूं कैपिटल खबर के विशेष कार्यक्रम स्पॉटलाइट विद सिद्धार्थ मिश्रा में। हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं वरिष्ठ पत्रकार श्री सिद्धार्थ मिश्रा जी। सर नमस्कार। जी सर, एक बुरी खबर आई है सिनेमा जगत से। जाने माने फिल्म निर्देशक और निर्माता श्याम बेनेगल जी का निधन हो गया है और देखा जाए तो पूरे सिनेमा उद्योग के लिए बहुत बड़ी क्षति है, ये काफी बड़ा नुकसान है। श्याम बेनेगल वो नाम रहे जिन्होंने भारतीय सिनेमा में एक पैरेलल लाइन स्थापित की, जिसे हम समानांतर सिनेमा कहते हैं। उसके जनक माने जाते हैं। 1974 में उनकी पहली फिल्म अंकुर आई थी और तब से लेकर वो लगातार एक्टिव रहे। अभी 2023 में उनकी फिल्म आई थी मुजीब, द मेकिंग ऑफ अ नेशन। वो लगातार इस पूरे दौर में एक्टिव रहे और कई बड़ी फिल्में उन्होंने दी। अंकुर है, निशान है, भूमिका है, जुबैदा, कई फिल्में उनकी आई। आ, कुछ बड़े दिग्गज अभिनेता जैसे ओम पुरी, नसरुद्दीन शाह, शबाना आजमी, ये सब उनकी ही फिल्मों से पनपे, उभरे और भारतीय सिनेमा जगत में छाए। एक तरफ जहां मसाला फिल्में भारतीय दर्शकों के दिमाग पे छाई हुई थी 70 के दशक में, 80 के दशक में, उन्होंने एक अपनी अलग लाइन स्थापित की। ऐसे में सर उनका जाना, और आप काफी दिनों से आप श्याम बेनेगल के बारे में आपसे इसके पहले भी कई बार बातें हुई थी और आप काफी दिनों से आप भी उनके फैन रहे हैं, आप भी उनको काफी पसंद करते रहे उनकी फिल्मों को। तो सर हम जानना चाहेंगे कि कितना बड़ा ये नुकसान है भारतीय फिल्मों के लिए और कैसे इसकी भरपाई हो पाएगी।
देखिए, मैं तो ये कहूंगा कि श्याम बेनेगल ने अपनी पूरी पारी खेली और करीब करीब उनकी आयु 90 साल थी। अभी 10 दिन पहले 13 तारीख को उन्होंने अपना बर्थडे, 13 दिसंबर को अपना 90वां बर्थडे मनाया था। और 1973 में उनकी पहली फिल्म आई थी अंकुर, जैसा कि आपने बताया। और तो करीब 51 साल उन्होंने फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में बतौर नाम, मतलब श्याम बेनेगल द नेम, 51 साल उन्होंने फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में रूल किया। और मैं तो उनको ये मानता हूं कि उन्होंने जो क्वालिटी सिनेमा जो है, जो उसको पैरेलल सिनेमा कहते हैं, क्वालिटी सिनेमा, स्टोरी टेलिंग की जो एक अलग रियलिस्टिक स्टाइल जो है, रियलिज्म के साथ जो बात करने वाली स्टाइल है, उसको वो लेकर के मेन स्ट्रीम तक पहुंचे। ये उनकी सबसे बड़ी काबिलियत है। जो कि उनके कुछ उनकी जो कंटेम्पररीज थे, मैं उनको कोई कम नहीं आंकता, कुमार साहनी हो या मनी कौल हो, लेकिन वो कभी अपने सिनेमा को इस तरह से मेन स्ट्रीम तक लेकर के नहीं आ पाए जिस तरह से कि श्याम बेनेगल लेकर के आए। अमित जी, श्याम बेनेगल का कैनवास इतना बड़ा है, उनकी जर्नी इतनी लंबी है, उसमें इतनी सारी कहानियां हैं कि ये कार्यक्रम में बातचीत के द्वारा, और खास करके जब मैंने उनके ऊपर काम कर रखा है, तो मात्र इस कार्यक्रम में एक बातचीत के द्वारा मैं उस पर थोड़ा अन्याय होगा श्याम बेनेगल केस के साथ। तो मैंने एक कुछ अलग सोचा था। आपने जब मुझे यह कहा तो मैंने कुछ अलग सोचा और ढूंढा अपने, जो कहते हैं, ट्रेजर बॉक्स को। तो श्याम बेनेगल के ऊपर हम लोगों ने दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय के लिए एक फैकल्टी डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम में सिनेमा के ऊपर हम लोगों ने एक वीडियो तैयार किया था। मैंने और डॉक्टर मनोज शर्मा हैं, जवाहरलाल नेहरू विश्वविद्यालय में अब पदस्थापित हैं हिस्ट्री विभाग में, फिल्म हिस्ट्री पे काम करते हैं, वो फिल्मोग्राफी पे काम करते हैं। उनके साथ मिलकर के हम लोगों ने काम किया था। और जो, जैसा कि आप जानते हैं कि श्याम बेनेगल महिलाओं के चित्रण पे बहुत उनका अच्छा फोकस रहता है। कई कई तरह से, अलग अलग तरीका से उन्होंने उनका चित्रण किया है। तो उसी संदर्भ में हम लोगों ने एक वीडियो तैयार की थी। मैं तो आपसे ये गुजारिश करूंगा कि आप आज दर्शकों के लिए उस वीडियो को का लिंक मैंने आपसे शेयर कर दिया है। आप दर्शकों के लिए उस वीडियो को चलाएं। और थोड़ा लंबा वीडियो है, लेकिन मैं ये कह सकता हूं कि जो भी लोग सिनेमा के विद्यार्थी हैं, जेंडर के विद्यार्थी हैं, और राजनीति के विद्यार्थी हैं, इतिहास के विद्यार्थी हैं, इन सबको ध्यान में रख करके, सोशल साइंसेस के पूरे एक डिसिप्लिन को ध्यान में रख के ये वीडियो बनाया गया है और सबको आनंद आएगा इस वीडियो को देख करके। तो मेरी तो आपसे गुजारिश यही है कि आप आज के लिए उस वीडियो को चलाएं।
जी जी बिल्कुल। तो सर, जैसा आप आप कह रहे हैं वो वीडियो मेरे पास मौजूद है और मैं अब उसे प्ले करता हूँ।
Namaskar, hello, Vadakkam. Welcome back to In Conversation with Siddharth Mishra. From politics to Bollywood. That is what the journey which our episode today is going to do. We are today going to talk about Indian film industry. Some very interesting aspects of Indian film industry. And for conversation on this interesting issue, I have no better person than academically India's best known filmographer, film historian, Dr. Manoj Sharma. Dr. Sharma teaches history at Delhi University and has done a long time research on Hindi cinema and related world cinema also. Cinema is such a huge topic that it is not possible to capture it in one episode or two episodes or three episodes. So in this 1, 2, 3 episodes that we are going to do with Dr. Sharma, we shall be capturing journey of Shyam Benegal. And that too, we are not going to capture the complete journey of Shyam Benegal, but limited to a particular period when he makes a shift from being a hardcore art filmmaker to a somewhat of an entertainer. Shyam Benegal's first 4 films, Ankur, Charandas Chor, Nishant and Manthan, and Bhumika, made between 74 and 78, did not get commercial release. These films are funded by agencies which were outside the Bollywood cinema commercial structure. These films were funded by NFDC, Milk Cooperative of Anand, and such other agencies. So these agencies were not part of the business which Indian film industry created, business structure with the Indian film industry created. So they did not get proper releases. Shyam Benegal, somewhere, despite getting the critical acclaim for these films and the national awards and appreciation at film festivals abroad, had the desire that these films should be seen by the masses of this country. There was a problem. The problem was that at that point of time, in this country, we just had the single screen cinemas for showing films. We did not have the platform of television. We did not have the the current internet streaming channels. We did not have the CDs and the videos. We did not have the multi-screen cinemas either. So it was all limited to single-screen cinemas, and the single-screen cinemas were limited in number, and it was not possible to accommodate Benegal's and such other films, Kumar Sahani's film, Manikal's films, which were outside the business structure of Bollywood. So therefore, this film suffered. Benegal got his first commercial backing. Commercial as in when he came to become part of the Bollywood film structure. The business structure was when Shashi Kapoor owned Filmwala decided to back his project called Junoon. This was an interracial story about a Pathan and a English girl in the backdrop of 1857 mutiny. You must remember that Filmwala was not only about Shashi Kapoor. Filmwala was also about Jennifer Kendall, his wife, who also acted in this movie. And Jennifer was a very celebrated theatre artist. Jennifer, with her acting skills, brought a lot of heft to this role. And from there on, Shyam Benegal's journey started. Junoon was followed by Kalyug. Kalyug was also a commercial venture and it was a multi-star. It had Rekha, it had Raj Babbar, it had Anant Nag, it had Shashi Kapoor and several other people. However, these two films were not that great commercial successes. But the commercial recognition started coming, and they came in the form of Filmfare Awards, which both the films got. In the meanwhile, the platform of television had started to come up, and Benegal saw a future for himself there. And therefore, in 1986, he did a multi-episode serial called Yatra for the Indian Railways, and then Bharat Ek Khoj also. Now, both these television serials, for the first time, gave Benegal a huge platform and access to the masses, and he was able to secure his film production out, the Sayadari films. But that did not mean that he had lost his tryst with the 35 celluloid. He made Mandi in 1982 and Trikal in 85. But by 1990, he was definitely moving away from being just an art filmmaker or a television filmmaker to that of being what you call a commercial filmmaker. And thus in 1990s saw totally films made by Shyam Benegal, which were a totally different genre. It had songs, it had romance, it had stories. And there are so many films he made in the 1990s, starting off with Mammo, Sardari Begum, Zubaida, Suraj Ka Satma Ghoda, and of course the other movies like Mahatma and the biographical films. Mammo, Sardari Begum, and Zubaida. These three films are called Benegal's Muslim Trilogy. Mammo was made in 1994, Sardari Begum in 1996, and Zubaida in 2001. Some filmmakers say, or film critics say, that Zubaida was actually first real commercial venture of Benegal, because it had music by A.R. Rahman and Karishma Kapoor in the lead role. Some dispute it because in 1982 you had Rekha, the top-notch actor of that time, and Raj Babbar and Shashi Kapoor in Kaliyug in 1982. And I must tell you again, the musical success of Zubaida was not as high as Sardari Begum in 1996, which had music by the traditional music director of the favorite of Shyam Benegal, Vanraj Bhai. Manoj, today we are going to discuss the Muslim Trilogy, these three films. We'll limit our discussion to these three films. And my question to you is that 1990 is the period when there is a communal tension also in this country. The Babri Masjid movement, the Babri Masjid Ram Janambhoomi movement, and the consequent tensions and riots, other things in the city. So, did at any point of time Benegal had this communal tension at the back of his mind while he was making this film?
Sir, as far as I think with regard to the Muslim trilogy, I personally feel that it was not a Muslim trilogy because of the characters, because they were Muslim characters, and the issues were also connected to the Muslims. But I think that the larger issues they concerned with, they were largely universal in nature. And if we try to see films individually as well as collectively, then we will be able to realize this issue, that if we try to see Mammo, then the issue of Mammo is with regard to the identity of the woman, that what kind of identity she had, because she had migrated to Pakistan with her husband, and she became a Pakistani citizen. So when she comes back to India, then she is not an Indian citizen and she needs a visa. And before 1947, this kind of a reality was not there. And Mammo was feeling it, and it was feeling it very hard, that how to digest this kind of a situation, that in a country or in a place where she grew up, and now she cannot live at that place. And she wanted to be with her sister and nephew. And she felt that her aspirations, her style of living was comparatively more suited to the Indian conditions rather than at the place where she went with her husband. So that was one aspect. And when we try to see it in the larger framework of the issue of citizenship, that how we say generally that how nations they are being created, and the issue of nationality and citizenship, and they are linked to the issue of identity, and how many people, those who go from one place to another, how they become migrants, that how Mammo was feeling in a way rootless when she went to Pakistan, how she got displaced from her own place. So these kind of issues in the larger context within the framework of Pakistan, that how Pakistan was created in 1947, that how this kind of a partition kind of a situation which emerged, and thereafter the riots between different communities, Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs. And because of those riots, we do not have the exact estimates, but we say that nearly 10 million women they got displaced. They many women, those who were Muslims, they were they stayed in India. They married a lot of Hindu men. On the other end, so many Hindu women they married Muslim men. So this kind of things we see some of the films like Pinjar, Khamosh Pani. So these kind of ideas they were comparatively more universal in nature. Apart from that, when we try to see Sardari Begum, where we see that a woman is ready to come out of that kind of a shell, where the shell of traditions and the social ideas, value systems. So all these kind of things, Sardari Begum is not ready to accept, and she says that also when she marries Rajat Kapoor, and thereafter when Rajat Kapoor is thrown by her out of the house, then Mr. Das, played by Salim Ghosh, and he says that I want to marry you. So she says that it will not be good because I cannot be a Pativrata Nari. So coming out of that shell, recognizing this kind of a thing, that I do not want to live this kind of a life, which was comparatively very new in terms of treatment, not only in the context of the Muslim women, but any women, because the kind of society in which we live, which is more patriarchal in nature. So there are certain norms which is understood that women they will follow them. There are certain kind of work which they have to do, certain kind of norms of the society, value systems of the society which they have to follow, they have to conform to them. Similar like the social religious reform movements, when we go back, where women they were given a lot of liberty by the family members, but at the same time women they knew that they have to conform to the norms of their particular family and society. So in the similar way, Sardari Begum is being expected by her family members, including the brother, where she cannot have any kind of relations. Brother feels, though he is being supported by Sardari Begum at times financially and in other way as well. But even he feels that he should not keep any kind of relation with this kind of a woman who is not ready to accept the social traditions which are there of the family and in the larger framework society. And even his daughter does not know that she has an aunt with the name of Sardari Begum, who is very popular in terms of singing Thumri, etc. Similarly, if we see the third film, Zubaida. So Zubaida, in that also, Zubaida does not want to live a very traditional kind of life. She wants to explore the world. She wants to work in the films. And because of that, she is not liked by her father, who refuses that she cannot work in the films. And she is being married off to one of his friends. And when she is being married off, the person to whom she was married, he also goes to Pakistan, and her father he refuses that she will not go to Pakistan and she will remain in India. So at certain points, Zubaida she feels that there is a problem in terms of her identity, what kind of identity she has. And when she is being taken out and she marries another person, she becomes in a way the second wife of a Maharaja. And how in Maharaja's palace, she feels that she is just some sort of an object, because Maharaja at one point of time tells her that you have to look good, and that is your job. You don't have to interfere in even in the politics. So such kind of portrayals, not only of the women, especially Muslim women, where the issues of Muslim personal law, that how women in the Muslim society they have to live within the framework of the Muslim personal law, and those kind of issues when we compare with the Indian or the Hindu kind of a society where the women in the Hindu society also they have to conform to all sorts of restrictions which are placed on them. And this is how we see in terms of the kind of dichotomies with regard to women, that how women they are being seen as Devi, Durga, Parvati, Lakshmi, Annapurna. They are being worshipped on Navratri. We call young girls and we feed them. We in a way touch their feet. And on the other hand, how young children, especially girls, they are being raped in the Indian society. The problem of the domestic violence of the girls, those who get married, the issue of dowry, which is there in the society. So all these kind of problems, when we try to see that these kind of dichotomies do exist. So I will not see these problems of women because the characters were women, but the problems were comparatively more universal in nature, which you will find in other societies as well.
Yeah, Manoj, you are correct that the Indian society at that point of time had issues across the communities, across the what you call nations, and that one of the best known novelists of the period, Amrit Lal Nagar, did a magnum opus at that point of time, which was titled Nacho Bahut Gopal. It was about
Yes,
a young girl who to consummate her marriage with a man much older to her, and she's married off to that man for money, and then she runs away with a low caste sweeper, and then even the Dalit society does not accept them, and then he becomes bandit, and then she comes back, the bandit dies, and then she raises her son. So you see the the struggle of rebellious Indian woman. And in all these three films, look at it, if you assume that they are in the Muslim context, but we definitely see that all the three women in this context are women who are rebellious in their different time frames, who are rebellious in different time frames. Mammo is sometime in her character is sometime of the 70s or late 60s or early 70s. Sanari Begum is placed somewhat in 50s, 50s or 60s, around that period, or maybe it's like 60s or 60s. And Zubeda is again placed in the 50s. So you see, and also they are from different backgrounds. You see, just not the, and this also they're trying to portray that religion particularly does not have a typical social framework. Because if you see Zubeda, she is from a Muslim family. Her lifestyle, her living style, her interaction, her peer circle is very, very different from Sardari Begum, who is from a provincial town of Uttar Pradesh. Her challenge is different. And whereas in case of Mammo, she is from a business area of Panipat. Panipat is an important industrial sector. And affected, and since it was part of Punjab at that point of time, so affected directly by partition. And the family migrates to Bombay, and in Bombay, and in a world which is different from the film world of Bombay, this family is coming up. So all these three women, all these three Muslim women are living under three different social situations and conditions. To me, the rebellion of Sardari Begum. To me, the rebellion of Sardari Begum played so very important as a strongest character because she is from a Mufassil town, and she wants to be career in music. And a career in music at that point of time, the whole concept of women singing music was much on being the ones who are singing on the what the British called the Notch girls and the Mujrewalis and Kothewalis. To somebody from a middle class family, her father is a lawyer or something of that kind, and somebody from that kind of a family, and she wants to go and pursue a career in music. She I find to be the more rebellious of the given situations than the other. I don't know if you agree with this or you don't agree with this.
So, taking cue from what you have said, that the idea of a rebel woman So generally, what has been written in the context of women is that either there is a Prativita Nari who is ready to accept that her husband is the sole universe around him, then the family in-laws, they have to be taken care of. She should not in a way, any way object to what others want in the family. She is the one who has to take care of the entire family. So she is the heroine that way in the general films. And on the other hand, you have a vamp who has her own ideas. So women, they are portrayed that way. Either they are the heroine, one who is conforming to everything which is there in the society, and the other hand, there is a vamp who does not want to conform. But the reality lies between both of them, because these are two extremities that way. So when we try to see men and men, they also have shades of gray. So in the similar manner, women, they should be also portrayed. And I think the attempt by Shyam Benegal in all these three films is to show that women, they have their own emotions, they have their own identity, they have their own sense of how they want to lead their lives. Because generally we see that the women's wishes, they are not taken into consideration, that what they want to do, because either they have to listen to their younger brothers or maybe elder brothers when they are unmarried, to their parents, their father especially, and when they marry, then they have to listen to their husbands or the in-laws. So when we try to position women in that way, that they are rebelling, so or they want to pursue what they want to follow, rather, I would like to put it this way, then this kind of a thing is there because the society is also changing. Because when you see that in 1950s, where the background of Zubaida is there, or Mammo, which is there of 1970s and 80s, so the society has also progressed in these 20-30 years. And even the women's movements, if you see the emancipation of women in the social religious reform movements, and thereafter the establishment of the All India Women's Conference in 1927, and how a number of women's organizations, they are also wishing that women from different platforms, women from different social strata, they come together on one platform, because they are fighting for the women's rights. And that is how we also see that various issues with regard to women, they are always at the center stage. And politically also, because legislation itself is very, very important. When women, they were given they were part of the universal adult suffrage, when they were being given rights that they can decide the government.
This particular context, talking of these three characters, what I was trying to express was that in case of Mammo, she opted for Pakistan for love. She opted for Pakistan, and after her love is dead and she is thrown out, for survival she comes to this country. In case of Zubaida, also something similar. She is looking for. She's a young, again having divorced. She has a lovely marriage, but she has been divorced for reasons of partition. And then she's again seeking love and luxury in life. Here, in case of South Africa, she, this woman I mentioned, Mammo and Zubaida, they are not trying to actually look forward to a career. They're looking forward to a life of comfort, for which they are rebelling. Whereas in the case of Sardari Begum, she is actually rebelling for a career. She wants to have a career in the area of music. So that is the difference that I saw of these characters, and that was the
So
point.
from the professional point of view, if you see Zubaida also wants to be an actress, and she acts in one of the films where her son is locating that reel where she had danced in one of the films, and she was very keen to become a film actress, though it was not allowed, because getting into films was not considered to be a good profession in those times. I remember that how initially when cinema came into existence, how the Notch girls, even in the first film Raja Harishchandra, Dada Sahab Phalke was not able to find a woman, and Salunke, a man, he played the role of the wife of Raja Harishchandra, because none of the women, they were ready to work in the films, because the kind of low profession it was considered. So women were not forthcoming. Even the Notch girls and the courtesans, they were not ready to work in the films. And when they come into cinema, initial part, we see, I remember seeing some of the posters of 1920s, 30s, where film directors, they are writing that they are BA, they are MA, to show that they are educated people, because educated people were not coming into films. But now the situation has completely reversed. Everyone is ready to work in cinema, and many people are not even getting those kind of opportunities. So in that context,
Yeah.
in that context, when you see that how Zubeda, she also wanted to have some kind of a career, when she was denied that kind of a career, then only she went, because she had that kind of a hardship where her husband left. So she was very depressed. So she did not have much option in terms of career, because she was not being allowed. And the background is also late 1940s and 50s. So that has to be kept in mind. In the case of Mammo, I agree with you completely that it was not related to the issue of career. But in the case of Mammo, the issue was the issue of identity. And if you see this common thread, it is there in every film. And Shyam Benegal is using this kind of a device where this kind of an exploration is going on. Someone has become some sort of a journalist.
Yeah. You're talking about devices, One of the devices that Shyam Benegal uses, not only in these three films, he uses in several other films also, is the device of Sutradhar,
Yes.
the storyteller, who is not exactly Sutradhar in the pure terms, but he's part of the act, part of the cast, and he's somehow telling the story. As in case of Mako, you have the grandson who's writing a story, and he asked his grandmother that what happened to Momo, she go, and then she shares some document with her. In case of Sardari Begum, again, this Sardari Begum's niece, who does not know that she has an aunt and she is somewhere, and she decides to. She is sent on an assignment of a Muslim woman, Muslim singer having died, and she discovers that actually she is her aunt. She sees her father. She again decides that she opts out of a trip to Cannes or somewhere for covering a film festival, and she decides to discover Sadari Begum's story. In the third part, again, Zubeda's son, who is a film journalist, and he was about exploring about Zubeda and finally lands up at the Maharani's courtyard and who she has with him. And as you mentioned that a film which is missing from film archive, the first reel of the film which is missing from film archive, Zubeda is finally given to her by the older Maharani that look was your mother's. So, what I wanted to ask you was that when Shyam Benegal uses this device of Sutradhara, why does he do that? And he does it so often. He does it in Trikal also. Somebody is telling story. That's what with your story. Always.
So in terms of storytelling, I think when there is some kind of inquisitiveness, that some journalistic thirst is there, some person who is part of the film, and he or she is also involved in terms of investigation, that what has happened to that person. Because Shyam Benegal not only is using the issue or Sutradhar in terms of telling the story, but at the same time we see that his stories are cutting back and forth. The stories are not linear in that way that the story is progressing and then it ends. Rather, different kinds of episodes, they are being talked about, they are being shown, and then the story is linked in, because when you see one scene and many a times that scene is also repeated, then you are able to relate, okay, this thing happened at that point of time and how it is connected. So parts, they also get connected, and many a times, because you see films but you don't even exactly remember that whether this thing happened earlier in the film or this thing happened earlier. So this kind of a device, which I also have seen recently used by one of the very promising and very popular filmmakers, is Rajkumar Hirani. And I think in each of his films are not linear that way. They are very episodic in nature, and different episodes, they connect the story in this way. So it in a way engages the audience to a larger extent, and audience is in a way not able to predict that this thing is going to happen. So I personally think that this kind of a device is being used so as to create some kind of an interest of the audience. So this is what I believe in this context.
Another thing, which he does so effectively in all of his movies is that, you always, there's a protagonist, and to the protagonist, he creates a complementary character. So if you see, we have Fateh Jalal as Mammo, Kiran Kher as Sardari Begum, and we have Karishma Kapoor as Zubaida. But in all the complementary character is played by a very veteran actress, Surekha Sikri. She is elder sister in Mammo. She is Kiran Kher's music guru in Sardari Begum. And then she is what you call Zubaida's mother in the third film.
Zubaida.
All the three films, these characters, they are not weak women characters. I must tell you, she is not portraying weak women. Here in this case, she has stood up to the world and she's looking after her grandchild in the first movie, Mammo, who has been disowned. In case of second film, Sardari Begum, she plays a veteran singer who has a society. And in the third film, she plays the mother, pushing her daughter. Finally, gives in and allows her daughter to go. So what we had started discussing was about rebellious women. And here we also have women in the society who are conforming women, conformist women, conformist. So how do you define this? The whole act of creating characters. One is rebellious and one who is social norms abiding. What is the idea behind these two characters? And very powerfully characters.
So what I personally feel is that the characters which are more conforming are from a generation which is earlier. If you see the case of Mammo, there is an elder sister, so who belongs to an earlier generation. Similar is the case in Zubaida, that she is a mother, and in the case of Sardari Begum, she is a guru. And all these three characters are comparatively of an earlier generation. And on the other hand, the younger characters, they are more rebellious. Rather, they want to pursue their own emotions, their own personal passions. So that is one part. Another part is that when you try to show these kind of characters in some kind of a juxtaposition, that how you pit one character against the another, then the rebelliousness of the other person is more pronounced. This is what I feel. Because the society is and was largely conformist in nature. As citizens of the country, as citizens of a society or a locality, you have to conform to certain norms of the society. And when someone goes and someone tries to break those norms, then the problems, they emerge. And we also see that all these three characters at different points of time, they do not generally agree to what the other character or the younger character is doing in terms of breaking the norms. At different point of time, they try to tell them that, I remember in Zubaida, mother says that if you want to marry the Maharaja, you should marry. But after some time, he will lose interest in you because she is more worldly, she is more wise. She realizes that you will just become a second queen, and there might be many more queens in the harem of Maharaja. So you will be just one of them. After, he will lose interest. Similarly, when Mammo says that I want to extend my visa by paying some kind of a bribe to the officer, then the elder sister is not conforming to what she was doing in terms of extending her visa. Even when she says that she will produce some kind of a death certificate, even then the elder sister wanted that some kind of conformity in terms of either law or in terms of society that should be maintained. Even when you see, there is a scene in Tonga when younger Sardari, played by Smriti Mishra, and she says she says to Surekha Sikri that this ring has been given to me by Amrish Puri, and she says that you be very careful that the person who has given you ring, the person is more concerned in women rather than in the music. So all three, in a way, are mature characters.
Conforming women, So although the first two films had two characters, one was rebellious, one was conforming. the third film, Zubeda, had a third character in Rekha, the Patrani, the Maharani of
Yes, sir.
whichever state that is, and who she tries to extend some kind of, and she's very well educated, very well groomed, and but again conforming to the norms of the society. So where was the Benegal created third character? In the first two films, women characters complementing each other. In case of Zubaida, he creates a third character, and she and a polished character, very polished character, and strong character. So the whole, that my what I really want to understand that why the third character in Zubaida, maybe demand of the story.
Sir, because what I have read or what I have seen with regard to Zubaida, that it is inspired by a real story, and the writer of the film, it is his autobiography that way, that he is the son of Zubaida, and Zubaida was a yesteryear actress, and the writer of the film, in a way, is trying to project not only the kind of society which was there, but the kind of experience which he had with regard to her mother. And when Zubaida goes to that particular princely state, so it is some sort of a real life story, and then has been adapted for the screen. So some of the elements, like the case of Rekha, so Maharaja Manoj Vajpayee already had a woman, or already had a wife, and this wife was from a very respectable family who knew the customs and traditions of Rajputana, to where she belonged. So she is conformist, she is educated, but at the same time, she knows that how to behave, because at different points of time, she tells Zubaida also that you can talk to me, you can call me Mandy when we are alone, but you can't call me Mandy when we are with others. She becomes angry when Zubaida starts dancing on the Gangor festival. She says that there are certain customs of the palace which you have to follow. So she is conformist, but at the same time, she is comparatively more mature.
And towards the end, for keeping in mind the traditions and the customs and the so-called izzat of the Rajgharana, she allows Zubaida to take the flight and steps back. She had campaigned with Maharaj,
Yes.
and then tragic accident. Having talked about
Because there are so many people those who are standing there.
and having talked about women characters, there are all the three films has Rajat Kapoor playing different roles. And in the first and the third, he is playing the storyteller, a film journalist or a film historian, and in the first one, a writer otherwise, and who is examining on this. So he is the Sutradhar in these two films. In Sardari Begum, his character is very typical. You have a typical Maharaja. Raja, about whom you mentioned, the Suresa cautions her. That ring has been given not just for music, but for her youth also, And here is one person who takes Sardari out from the from the cudgels of the Raja, and brings her to Delhi and gives her the exposition on the platform, which she should have got anyway. But somehow his character is, he is not really able to come clean on financial dealings. So that kind of sense of insecurity he always has with Kiran K, the Sardari Begum. That that she will at some point of back of the mind, that she had anything with that, and she's a woman of that kind of 10%. Actually, that happens also, and which she realizes also, which Sardari realizes also, because she tells her third lover, the company owner, that that she's a woman who whom he can love, but he should not marry, because she's one of the biggest weaknesses of the character of Sardari Begum is she, despite being a rebel of her time, despite having her own way, she does not allow her daughter to have her own way, and she, and that is where her niece and the daughter, when they share their story, and says she never allowed me. So what was Sardari's that sense of insecurity,
So what I personally feel is that in all the, especially Sardari Begum and Zubaida, mother-daughter relations are shown in a way which are very, very important. Because if you see the case of Sardari, as you talked about, that the Rajeshwari who played the part of the daughter, she is not being allowed to, in a way, study or to follow her own passion which she wants to do. Rather, she is not even asked that what she wants to do. Sardari decides for her that what she has to do. And when the journalist or her cousin sister comes and she says that how do you see her, whether she, even Sardari asks her when she dies that whether I was a good mother. So she says that you were a good mother, but at the same time, when they were discussing this thing, that when Rajeshwari says that mother, you did not allow me to follow my own passion, she calls her khudgarj and zahar in the film. She says that you were khudgarj because you were always thinking about yourself. You were always, you were the central character, we were at the periphery. So she never comes in a way center to the Sardari's ideas. She was always peripheral in nature. And on the other hand, Sardari is considered to be some sort of a selfish woman by her when she says khudgarj. But at the same time, from the mother's point of view, Sardari was always very protective of her. And later she realizes also, because in any family there are always generational shifts, and younger always feel that the other generation or the elder generation is not able to understand them fully. So these kind of changes are there.
Manoj, in these three films, we also see, music plays an important role especially in the second and the third film. And in the third film, we have A.R. Rahman as the music director, which is the second
Yes.
Sardari Begum, which actually is very successful music. Songs became very successful. And Vanraj Bhatia, the long-time music director of Shyam Benegal, got his due from this film, although he was not taken in the next film, which probably the production house decided to go for A.R. Rahman. Manoj, we have had a very fruitful discussion on the. You will not agree, but then that's how the world calls it, the Muslim trilogy of Shyam Benegal. We will come back to discuss Shyam Benegal's other films also in the next episode. Thank you, Manoj. Thank you so much for having joined us.
Thank you.
तो अभी आपने देखा ये हमारा विशेष वीडियो जो श्याम बेनेगल पर था, और इसे श्री सिद्धार्थ मिश्रा जी ने मनोज शर्मा जी के साथ जो बातचीत की थी उसे हमने पेश किया। और सर मैंने भी ये पूरा वीडियो देखा है, और मुझे नहीं लगता कि श्याम बेनेगल को इस तरीके से, इस नजरिए से किसी ने जानने समझने की कोशिश की थी। आप लोगों ने बहुत ही गहराई से बातें की हैं, और जो भी पैरेलल सिनेमा के शौकीन हैं, जो सिनेमा को जानना समझना चाहते हैं, जो विद्यार्थी हैं सिनेमा के, और जैसा आपने कहा भी था पहले कि जो समाज विज्ञान के भी विद्यार्थी हैं, उन्हें बहुत मदद मिलेगी इस वीडियो से।
आपने तो जब वीडियो देख ही लिया है, वीडियो में सारी बात कह दी है, और बहुत गहन रिसर्च है इस वीडियो के पीछे, जैसा आपने देखा होगा। तो श्याम बेनेगल पे हम लोगों ने और भी कई काम कर रखे हैं, कुछ काम कर रखे हैं जो फिर कभी जिसके बारे में हम लोग चर्चा करेंगे। आज मेरे ख्याल से श्याम बेनेगल को श्रद्धांजलि के लिए इतना ही काफी है।
जी बिल्कुल, श्याम बेनेगल जी का जो जाना है भारतीय फिल्म सिनेमा उद्योग से, उस नुकसान की शायद भरपाई तो कभी न हो पाए, लेकिन उनकी फिल्में हमेशा रहेंगी, हमारे मानस पटल पर अंकित रहेंगी, और जो उनका काम है वो हमारे साथ हमेशा रहेगा। और एक किसी भी क्रिएटिव व्यक्ति के लिए शायद इससे बड़ी कोई श्रद्धांजलि ना हो कि हम उसके काम को लगातार देखते रहें, उसके जाने के बाद भी उसकी प्रासंगिकता बनी रहे। तो श्याम बेनेगल इस मामले में मुझे नहीं लगता कि भारतीय सिनेमा के लिए कभी पुराने होंगे, वो हमेशा प्रासंगिक रहेंगे। धन्यवाद सर, नमस्कार।
थैंक यू।